I am begging anyone that can hear us to save us from dying. If anybody out there is listening to us, we are dying, and you are killing us with the inefficiency.
You may remember the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and that impassioned plea for help after Hurricane Maria struck the island last year. Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz made headlines for going after the president and the federal response to the deadly storm.
That's right, Jenna. When the lack of government response, outside aid organizations moved in to help the people of Puerto Rico, including CBN's Operation Blessing. Jenna and I recently sat down with Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz and discussed how some of San Juan are now paying, rather some in San Juan are now paying it forward because of OB's help. Many in Puerto Rico are still trying to recover from Hurricane Maria, yet I understand that you sent a team to Lumberton, North Carolina to help the victims of Hurricane Florence. Tell us what started that.
Well, it's called Operation Pay It Forward. And a week after the Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, I got a knock on the door, literally, and they said, there's a gentleman here from Operation Blessing. I've never heard of the organization, David Dark, and he wants to speak to you. And he says, Mayor, we're from Operation Blessing, and we're here to help. And I said, well, what can you do? And I tell David and other people that before that day, my faith was distracted, you know.
I wonder why.
You know, well, you always can find excuses not to pay attention to the right things. And while he talked and he said, look, we can help you with solar lamps and we can help you with filtration systems and so forth, I was very snide to him. And I said, well, just one last question. Why do you do this? And I was all puffy, like, you know. And he turned around and looked at me with a very calm and soothing manner and said, because the Lord calls us to serve. And it was like, oh, I mean, that was like somebody had pierced my heart right there. And he stayed with us and he said, look, I have these lamps and I never leave home without this anymore. And they're called solar puffs. And I have all these suitcases. He didn't have any clothes. His suitcase were not with clothing, but with these lamps.
The solar lamps.
And he says they're solar and we can take them to the communities. And that night he went out with us and we started taking them to communities. So it's very simple. And if you're in trouble and you don't have any electricity or a phone, you can just make it go SOS. So when he went with us and we distributed these lamps, which I started calling them cubes of hope, people started coming out of their homes for the first time, and they started retaking the streets, and they would talk to one another and talk to the neighbors. So Operation Blessing, then I found out that it was an ONG out of Pat Robertson's organization. And I thought, Pat Robertson, what does he have to do with, you know, solar systems and purification?
Sure.
The work that you did and continue to do in Puerto Rico saved lives. You may not even know it, but you saved lives. And it wasn't only that people could drink water out of a creek and get purified. It was that our lives mattered to somebody. And without knowing it, I've never met Mr. Robertson. I probably never will see him in my life. But what Operation Blessing did and continues to do, these people move their families around just to help others. As we speak, there's a team in Indonesia just doing the same thing. Simple things, rather than I don't mean to be disrespectful, but rather than preaching with words, just doing the job that needs to be done to serve one another. So we started calling everything hope, hope, hope. And then when we saw the North Carolina, and we heard Operation Blessing saying that we're going to go up to North Carolina, Lumberton, I don't even know where Lumberton is. We said, we have to pay it forward. So we asked for volunteers, and 7 chefs and cooks are in Lumberton working alongside Operation Blessing to help to feed people. And we know what it is to go hungry. We know what it is to be thirsty. We know what it is to think that your life does not matter. So it isn't a lamp, it isn't a purifying object. It's pure love what gets passed around. People did it for us, so now we have to do it for others.
It's paying it forward.
I'm sorry, it's just
Paying it forward.
Yeah.
Julie, give us an update on how things are in San Juan.
Well, San Juan is doing a lot better. I often say to people, don't let the lights in San Juan fool you. Their suicide rates have gone up by 50%. Suicide attempts have gone up by 70%. There's still about 60,000 roofs all over Puerto Rico, 3,000 in San Juan, what we call blue roofs. That's either a tarp or just a wooden frame with a tarp on it. The economy is starting to come back, so if you're looking for a place to vacation, come down to Puerto Rico. And
Nice
you can,
plug.
Yes, yeah, and you can, look, if it makes you feel better, you can do a little social work. And you can,
Service work, I love it.
service work, yeah. You can have a service vacation. But we're certainly not where we're supposed to be. The aid in terms of financial, we hear a lot of headlines, but the money still has not gone into Puerto Rico. And there's disparities, for example, out of $4.5 billion that have been assigned to contracts, which not all of them have started, but only $500 million have been to local contractors and 4.5 to outside contractors. So it doesn't help much. But, one thing that Maria did not take away from us was our ability to take care of one another. In a way, we found ourselves. I hope we never have to find ourselves again because of that. And I hope that path that we found to help each other just continues and remains. But we still have a long way to go. Our electrical grid is almost all done, but it's very weak. And the thing is, we had to build it just the way that it was before. So if another hurricane comes, those 60,000 families that have just a temporary roof will have to go into a temporary shelter.